I was a little kid there. We were at an auction, a farm auction. They had a huge pile of scrap metal there. And in the middle of a pile there was a Red Owl coffee can. And I didn't buy the pile, but after the pile had sold, I picked up the can and went to the guy that bought it. And I said, "Will you take $1 for this coffee can?" And he was like, "Oh yeah." So there I had my Red Owl coffee can, one of my first pieces of Red Owl memorabilia. This was probably when I was like, probably 12 years old at the most. So started pretty early. My name is Jim Pesek. I'm a member of the Stewart Area Historical Society. This project started about 5 years ago, I'd say, to hopefully save our old Red Owl grocery store as a home for our collection of Stewart and Red Owl memorabilia. Yeah, your eyes just start to focus, and you see that logo, just, you're drawn right to it. Les Kuba, I don't know if you know that, Les Kuba designed it, the famous wildlife artist from Minnesota. It's just a great logo. I mean, I hope Les got paid well for it, because he did a good job. When I was in high school and the store closed, they had an auction and were selling off everything, and the big 4-foot wide Red Owl's head was for sale. So I hurried up and purchased that for, I think, almost $500 back then already, which is a pretty good chunk of money for, somebody in high school. So I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I knew I couldn't let it leave town. So I bought it and held on to it, and then, several years later, bought the whole building for only a little bit more. Back in the 50s, every town had its own little grocery store, and you'd shop there, and bag boys would take your groceries out right to your car. They'd all dress up, they'd have regular dress shirts on, and you'd have their little bow ties. And I think there was a lot more respect in that kind of jobs back then, compared to now. So I think people were glad to even have a job like that. Even in our little store in town here, they still had some Red Owl items on the walls and that, and I'd always, just look at it. They had one of their pictures that showed the history of the logo and that, and I'd always look at that. And some of their signs in there were really, really old because they were a small store, and it was always fun to look at that. Just always went to the one in town here, and always had a good time, and just a fun place to hang out as a kid.
We bought the store in March 4th, 1979.
He was working at Glencoe and Lee Super Value, and I was working as a waitress, and I had to feed him then, and I still feed him now. When we got married, we lived in Glencoe for 4 years. 5 years. And then we bought the store, and we've been in Stewart ever since.
The lady that they bought the store from, she was always known as, Mrs. Red Owl in her later years. Her husband, Bill, that started the store in '39. He was actually coming through town to open up a store in Atwater, Minnesota, but his car broke down. And while he was waiting for his car to get fixed, he walked by and that building was available for rent, and he looked at it and thought, that'd be a good place to start a store. So then he started up the store here in town, and instead of Atwater, so our Red Owl store started basically by accident, and then it lasted for over 70 years. His life was really defined by his little Red Owl store here in town. And he was on the fire department, so if he had a call, he'd just take off his apron and throw it on his counter and leave the door unlocked. And when he'd come back, there'd be money sitting on the counter with little lists of what people took while he was gone. So he was a real fixture of the community, Bill Sunday. And he worked at his little store till the day he died. The oldest agency store in the organization at the time of his death.
We were there 22 years. Well, it was a lot of work. I thought I put in 8 days every week instead of 7, but...
I'd go there all the time, buy pop and candy, get candy bars. And
the big stores, they didn't let you charge. Well, that was one thing we let people do, was charge.
I remember the old Pepsi machine out front was 35 cents.
And sometimes the kids would come in and they charge candy or pop.
At the checkout counter, they had little Smarties suckers for 5 cents a piece. I'd always get one of them.
Well, I'd say the community did a pretty good job with us, and especially on Sunday mornings. It was a full day's work in 4 hours.
Well, Sunday mornings was real good. You went to church and you came in and you send the kids to the back to fill the milk cooler up.
We did just as much business on Sunday mornings as when we were there during the week all day long. And the busiest time we ever had was a blizzard. Everybody could make it to town in a blizzard. If they said the roads are closed, here the people come. Snowmobiles, tractors, so whatever trucks, four-wheel drives, anything. They'd make it into town because they needed their milk and their bread. Well, when we were in business, we knew every person in town. Of course, there was only 550. If a stranger moved in, it didn't take long, we'd get to know them.
And even if they needed something during the week, it's not like we would say no to them. And, or what, even if it wasn't on our way home, we still made the extra swing around town. Yeah.
We took care of them.
Well, we got 1 truck a week, was on Thursday. And if they backed up in back of the store, everything came down on rollers. And from there, we just put it in the back room.
Did the frozen first, and dairy products and meats come next. And produce. We had a special cooler in the back.
And one guy, you always had to have his Sundrop on the shelf. They had their certain brand names that they liked. There wasn't such a thing as
scanning,
and they wanted us to put it in towards the end, and we just, with the 2 of us working there, we just couldn't see why we had to put all that electronic stuff in. And
yeah, marked everything by hand, or we had a gun that spit out labels with the price on.
And we didn't care if it was in the frozen or the dairy, or everything was run together except for the taxable items. That was always a different key. And they were big containers. Now everything isn't a pound anymore. It's either 14 ounces or 12 ounces. There isn't such a thing as 16 ounces. Or it just seemed like some of the stuff was bigger compared to what it is now. And
yeah, we were here for the small people as well as town people as well as the farmers.
Well, it was a great company. I mean, they treated us well and everything, and good customers, and that's what really helped.
In 2001, we finally got rid of it because I was getting old, and a guy wanted to buy it, and I found out that I did a lot of things wrong, and he changed it all, and he lasted 22 months. So that's how that went.
The next big town over is Hutchinson. Hutchinson. They have, Walmart and Cashwise and Target and that. So all the little grocery stores in these neighboring towns kind of closed up shop. Super Value bought them out in '89. Ours never changed names. It still stayed as a Red Owl. And, the big Red Owl sign was still out front. So it was always kind of, still there. Different items mean different things to different people. I mean, one person might see a sewing kit and think that's the greatest thing in the world. The next person might think, oh, that's no big deal. Then, see a coffee can and think, oh, that's neat. My grandma used to have that same coffee can on her cupboard and that. And we want something unique, but we also want just a gathering place for our town. We want to have a community center in there too, a little library and that, but we want to celebrate the building's long history of Red Owl. I mean, almost 1939, it's over 80 years, and even after the store closed, it was known as, the Red Owl. Still is. The building's been vacant for many years, and the roof is in very poor shape. We're hoping we can raise enough money to fix the roof, and we can start fixing up the inside and getting all these wonderful items out on display. I feel it's important to remember all these things that used to be around and used to be great, and that the old ways of life, where not everybody went shopping in a big giant Walmart supercenter, and that where the small town grocery store was like the gathering place in town. I mean, you go there, you could gossip, you look at all the ads and classifieds, taped to the wall and that. It's important to me. I don't want to see this town lose anything else. We've already, even since I've been here 30 years, this town's lost so much. It's important to save at least a little piece of it. I've always been interested in history since I was a teeny tiny little kid, so it's kind of, people have given us so much Red Owl stuff. People have been so gracious to us, just donating items to us. I mean, we owe it to them, to have it all on display or where everybody can come and enjoy it.